Hello guys, in this video we want to share our answer about Puritanism, witchcraft, and capitalism. So for the first question is, if a person claims to be a Puritan, what kind of a person he or she would be and what kind of literary works that a Puritan author will most likely write about? For the answer is, I think they must be a very religious person because Puritans is a group of Protestants who want to prevent the church from the influence of the Catholic Church. They also would be a very solemn person because they refuse to celebrate traditional holidays. They oppose pleasure and art, suspected joy and laughter as symptoms of sin. I also think that they also would be a person who feel to be the most righteous and intolerant person because they think that if there's any people challenge them, they were opposing God's will. They think themselves are choosing people from God. They were intolerant of others, not of their views. They even persecute them. And the kind of literary works that Puritan author will most likely about religion. They will talk about a lot of things about religion, for example, like sin, salvation, spiritual enlightenment, or any other thing about what they believe. And I also insert some kind of religion books from Puritan writers.
Number 2, what is the Salem Witch Trial and how does the Puritans connect to it? Explain. The Salem Witch Trial of 1692 was a year-long event in which religion sparked mass hysteria in a small colony. The trial consisted of charges of witchcraft against hundreds of people, and for the unfortunate, it meant their death. The temptation and the evidence associated with it are all based on the idea of good being connected with God versus evil, where the connection lies with Satan. A young girl, Betty Paris, sick strangely. The doctor suggested that it could be supernatural. The Puritan belief the witches targeted children and made this diagnosis was even more true. By the end of 1692, more than 200 people had been imprisoned and facing charges of witchcraft. 19 men and women was convicted of witchcraft and hanged. The Puritans were a colony of people from England who fled the influence of the Great Revolution and found themselves in Salem, Massachusetts. They came to America hoping to start a new life under the new church government because they believed the church in England was corrupt. They formed a new religion based on Christian and Catholic ideas and saw themselves as all-knowing. There is a strong belief that everyone needs to follow their way of life to live holy lives and have a stronger relationship with God. The Puritans also based their beliefs on the idea that to achieve this desired pure life, one must avoid the temptation and evils of Satan. When strange, unexplained events began to occur in their community, the Salem Puritans turned to their religion for an explanation. Women, children, and some men started behaving in ways that went against their strict belief, and the only plausible explanation to them was that God got angry and sent Satan to punish them. In an attempt to mend their relationship with God, the Puritans believed that their only chance was to get rid of the demonic demons that seems to be taking over. Demons are believed to have entered the small community and have taken over some of the inhabitant souls in the form of witches. The Puritans were so eager to return to the path of truth that they embarked on a path of witches to clean the city. They believe that what they are doing is morally right, and it is their duty to God to get rid of the witches who have ruled their community.
The final question is about the connection between Puritans' values and the US capitalism ideology today. So, first of all, there are 5 Puritans' principles. The first one is depravity, which to Puritans meant the total corruption of quote-unquote natural man as a consequence of Adam's original sin. The second one is covenant. They thought of their relationship with God and one another as a web of contracts. The third one is election. One of Puritan's 5 points was the doctrine of limited atonement, which thought that Christ died only for the elect, not for all humanity. The fourth one is grace. They believed that grace wasn't merely an idea but an emotion, which has been defined as a feeling of ecstatic intimacy with the divine. The last one is love, where they believe that natural man was so unworthy that salvation came from God's infinite love and mercy. We go on to the first Puritanism principle that influenced American ideology. It is the individualism. We all know that individualism is the core of American values. It is rooted deeply in early American Puritanism. Puritan believed that their religious purity and salvation could be achieved through self-discipline, self-improvement, and their hard work. The second one is in the democracy. American democracy has always been regarded as the example of Western democracies. The Declaration of Independence illustrates the ideas that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. After the War of Independence, the United States began to carry on its constitutional democracy where the government was divided into three branches: executive, legislative, and judicial. The early Puritanism played a key role in establishment of American democratic regime. We go on to the third one. It is the American people's strong sense of mission. So, since the founding of the United States, Americans had believed that it is their mission to spread social justice and liberty across the world and to lead human beings into the New Jerusalem. This sense of mission was deeply rooted in American culture and exerted a huge influence on the values and attitudes of American people. Now we go on to the fourth point about the connection between Puritans' values and the Americans' ideology. It is the national character. American Puritans linked material wealth with God's favor. They believed that hard work was the way to please God. To most Americans, material achievements are the mark of one's success, the manifestation of their personal values, and the symbol of one's independence. We go on to the last one, the last point about the connection between Puritans' values and the American capitalism ideology. So, the Puritans had a spirit for education, and such spirit finds its origin in the doctrine of covenant. The Bible was central to Christian education. They desired education and enlightenment for everyone, especially the common people. They wanted people to be able to read and understand the Bible themselves to live a godly life. The Puritans were also proponents of a liberal art education. They did not restrict education to religious subjects only. Indeed, they believed that all truth is God's truth, and they looked for truth wherever it might be found. In conclusion, we cannot deny that American people's values have changed and their lifestyles are quite different from what Puritans in New England advocated. However, the basics of American values conform the essence of Puritanism. So, Puritanism is not only a religious conviction, but an element of American culture which shaped the values of American people as well as their national characters. That is all for the presentation. Thank you so much for your interest and attention. We would now be interested to hear from you with your thoughts and or your questions.